Hey, we're here. We're live. It is Sunday, October 19th, 2025. Rick and I kind of disappeared for a moment, but we're popping back on. All right. I mean, there we are.
I was the star of the show.
Yeah. One of these days, Ed, one of these days, we'll let you captain the ship. That'll be really fun.
I kind of do that from behind closed doors anyway. No.
Your feedback is good. I will not never ever complain about the feedback. But hey, we got a familiar face back today, Ed. We got Rick.
I see it. Which way?
Yeah, this way. There we go. All right, somebody screenshot that really quick. There we go. So we're gonna go in a different direction today. Usually we bring Rick in to talk, pro wrestling. And we could probably go on forever talking about wrestling. But that is a different time and a different day. But we're going to do something a little different because Rick is also very knowledgeable about other things. That is comic books and movies and nostalgic topics, toys included. There's some really cool toys and collectibles out there.
Don't forget food.
And don't forget food. Rick is a connoisseur. And he makes like the best 8-cheese mac and cheese casserole. That's what we were talking about before the show. But anywho. Okay, all right. Okay, Rick, what rabbit hole should we dive down today?
I mean, I'm game for anything. I mean, as you can see behind me, I love comic books. I'm a big comic book guy. I was exposed to comic books, obviously as a kid growing up in the 70s and the 80s. You go to any grocery store, convenience store, there was always a little turnstile of comic books that you could purchase that were super cheap back then. Mm-hmm. And, I'd always have a comic book in my hand at some point reading them, but I never really got serious about it until 1990. And I was at a friend's house, and they had the first issue of the Infinity Gauntlet on their table.
Nice.
And I read it and was immediately hooked. And so I followed that 6-issue limited series. And at the same time, I was getting hooked on the characters, and I'm sure that the comic book companies love this because it's obviously designed this way. I now started to pursue all the crossovers out of the story and get into other titles. And within about 2.5 years, super quick, like any good addict, within 2 years, I had an 80 comic pull list a month at a comic store. And, I was writing over employment checks at Big Apple Comics to Ed, writing over like whole checks to get my box, and stuff like that. And it was like anything. And if you know me, when I do something, I throw myself completely into it. And again, like a good addict would. And so I do it until the wheels fall off, and then I'm like, I got to get out of this. I can't do this anymore. And I got out of comics for a long time. And I can go into, if you want me to, I can go into the specific 3 events that happened I think it was the same summer, or it was back-to-back summers, but 3 incidents happened across comics that basically made me throw my hands up and say, you know what, I'm out. But then I started collecting graphic novels to go back and get all the stories that I loved condensed into one book. And then I got a wild hair a year ago, and I started deciding I'm going to collect the Uncanny X-Men from the beginning all the way until current. And I am currently into the early 400s, and I still purchase a few every chance I get online. But I'm trying to rebuild that because they are my favorite franchise. They are absolutely my favorite franchise. But yeah, I love comics, so I'm down for if you want to talk about comics, I'm here for it.
Okay.
Comic movies, everything you want.
Right. So Ed, I mean, you're into comic books a little bit.
I was, yeah. At one point in time, it got to be. It was fun doing it, but $4 an issue now, and trying to store these damn things, it just got to be a little too much.
Oh yeah, you almost have to put together your own library, like convert one of the rooms in your house into like a library.
Yeah, and I wasn't gonna do that. It was no.
So I got into comics. It's been a minute since I've I stepped back into comics, but I got into comics. Oh, I would say probably around the death of Superman, or no, when Superman went kind of like he became the electric Superman, because they were like, oh my, this was like the time where they were throwing everything and anything against the wall, and they had the death of Superman, and then they evolved the traditional Superman that we knew into like the electric Superman. And I wanted to read Superman comics because of Super Friends. Like, I know the Super Friends is goofy as it was back in the day when they used to air on Cartoon Network, and I would wait until like maybe about 4 or 5 o'clock every afternoon and watch Super Friends, or what was it, Clash? Was it Clash of the Super
Challenge of the Super
Challenge
Friends.
of the Super Friends, and then it was the Superpowers team. And I always thought Firestorm was like the coolest character, like, and then I was like, oh man, he's kind of lame, so because they didn't give him enough love, like that cartoon did, like that the Superpowers team, they really liked Cyborg and they really liked Firestorm. Like, they brought those guys up as kind of like the young hotshots that are coming up within the Justice League, which I thought was cool. And then I always thought Darkseid was always like the best villain, and it was like Frank Welker that was like voicing Darkseid, so that made it even better. And then when they had Michael Ironside for Superman, the animated series, I was like, oh man, that is totally Darkseid right there. So yeah, so there was that stretch where I was reading Superman, and I got into Batman a little bit too. But Batman, I mean, got a little dark and gritty and grim, like in that time. And this was after Nightfall, so it was like, I don't know, it was kind of weird. And then let's see. And then I got back into comics. I think Ed and I were going over to Table's Edge for the mini cons, and I got into the Godzilla comics. Been with Godzilla since like when I was like little. Like, I used to, my first VHS tape, and I mean, I think it's since disappeared, was Godzilla versus the Sea Monster. Had James Bond-esque music. It was a giant lobster. Godzilla comes in halfway through the film, and then they have Mothra, who's like sleeping until like the very end of the movie. Like, it was not one of the best Godzilla movies, but god damn it was my Godzilla movie.
Yeah.
So I collected Rulers of Earth, and then the basement flooded at the old farmhouse, and I lost most of my comics. Yeah. The house in 50 years that my dad had been alive, he was like, I've been around for about 50 years. I have never, ever seen the basement flood. Like, we had carpet and everything in there. We had all of our nice stuff down there.
All finished, yeah.
Oh, it was the worst. But yeah, my grandma's like, I'm going to save everything. And what do you think of all this? And I'm like, oh, did you have to save it? Because like I had Robotech like crossed over with Voltron. Gosh, that was cool. That was a cool series. Like, it was a mini series. And then like, I dropped like $50 getting like Robotech Prelude to the Shadow Chronicles. And I was like, oh man, this is like Sentinels, man. And I could go into Robotech 2 Sentinels anytime. And why somebody should come around and finance the means to allow people to finish it, because it's so good. So that's how I got into comics. Long drawn out way, but
and back out for a disappointing while. Yeah,
and then back out. Yeah, I mean, I was kind of bummed. But
what do you guys think about Deadpool? He's one of my favorite comedian characters. Not in the movies, that was great, but I love it with the whole narrator, his mind thing going through all the comic books. It's just, I get a real good kick out of it.
I like Deadpool a lot as a character. I was exposed to Deadpool when he was first debuted and introduced because I was reading New Mutants. I was collecting New Mutants at the time that he was introduced. And right. He was just another mutant assassin. Like he didn't develop the character that everybody fell in love with for a long time. As a matter of fact, for me, I had already gotten out before he was completely the fourth wall breaker that he became. And when I found out that he was breaking the fourth wall, as a comic book fan of old, the first thing I said, which enraged a friend of mine who loves Deadpool so much, I was like, so they copied She-Hulk and they just gave it to Deadpool. Right?
I would have said, yeah, like that was inspired by She-Hulk.
She-Hulk was the original fourth wall breaker. Mm-hmm. And that wasn't good enough. So which misogynist decided they didn't want the girl to have the cool thing and gave it to the dude? And then my friend's like, "Oh, screw you!" Like, oh my God. I mean, what? You can't tell me I'm lying. It's a fact. And to top it all off, Deadpool is Wade Wilson. Like, and you don't know that there's a DC guy that called Slade Wilson.
Deathstroke.
Deathstroke the Terminator. I mean, it's literally the same character without breaking the fourth wall and not having cancer. It's the same guy. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah,
but I do love Deadpool. I love what Ryan Reynolds has done with the brand.
Oh yeah.
I think it's great. I'm kind of hoping that since the MCU, Kevin Feige has pretty much made it common knowledge that once they get through with Secret Wars, that there's going to be a soft reboot of the MCU, and then from there on, we're going to focus on mutants. I still want Deadpool. I don't want him to have too terribly many of his own. I don't want him included in the X-Men. I'd like for him to be the character that pops in and out. I'd like for him to remain true to what makes him cool, and that is either his own film or it's him in small doses. I don't want, if they do create a new X-Men team, I don't want him on it.
I agree.
Right.
Because I feel like his shtick will get old.
Yeah, because
like
you're trying to clash two franchises, and each one is unique in its own way. When you mix the two, it's just kind of like, you don't know which way it's going.
That's why I would almost rather when they finally get to focusing on the mutants, I would rather they keep Deadpool and Wolverine together. And I almost don't even want Wolverine on the regular X-Men team because, again, Hugh Jackman's version of Wolverine is so iconic at this point, and he's up there in age. He's got to be used sparingly as a character that only pops in for fun moments. Yeah, you cannot have Wolverine as a full-time character.
Right.
I agree.
He was always the lone wolf anyway, yeah.
And I do think that Ryan Reynolds will have enough say in the Deadpool character to be like, hey, let's not burn out the audience on either me or the character. Yeah, I mean, I think Ryan Reynolds has invested so much into Deadpool by now that he is essentially Deadpool now. Like, he has become Deadpool. Yeah. And now, like, I think Feige won't be able to do anything Super Deadpool related unless, like, Ryan Reynolds said, hey, this is smart. We can use it right here. We can save me for this moment, or we can save me for this solo flick. And maybe Hugh Jackman has gotten to the point now that he could have a little bit of say over what to do with Wolverine.
Oh yeah, he came back.
That's an optimist. That's an optimist view, but
isn't that what we wanted? We sat there and said, well, we don't want this new movie unless Hugh's in it. So I think that became a thing right overnight.
Although the Henry Cavill Wolverine's hilarious.
I feel like that at this point, I think that when the Mutants is such a pet project for Feige, I feel like that he's going to be more adept to allowing these actors to be a little bit more Robert Downey Jr.-ish in the fact that they're not going to go to them and say, here's what you're doing. They're going to go to them and say, what would you like to do? Because we have some ideas. And because that's where they are with Downey. He's so important and he's such the face of the MCU that they're never going to go to him and say, this is what you're doing, because he's going to tell you, no, I'm not. And he's not going to get in there unless he feels that the story's good. That's why I'm not worried about him as Dr. Doom like a lot of people are. I wasn't worried when they made the announcement, and I'm not worried now, because I feel like he understands that it has to be done a certain way, and I think he's going to make sure that it is done a certain way. And I feel like it's going to be that I go back to like the one time that I remember people losing their mind about a casting, myself included, was when they cast Tom Cruise as Lestat in Interview with a Vampire. The franchise itself, like the writer Anne Rice and the fans, it was just, no, this is not good. We don't like it. We don't want this. And damn it if he didn't nail it. Mm-hmm. And to the point that even Anne Rice was took out a full-page apology in the newspaper for him and I feel like with Downey, he did such a good job with Iron Man.
Yeah.
It was so true to what Tony Stark was as a comic character. I just feel like he's going to nail Dr. Doom. And I think that type of dedication is the same dedication Ryan Reynolds has. It's the same dedication Hugh Jackman has to these characters. And we're in such a good place when we get out of Secret Wars. I think that we're going to have some really, really good content, because we're now at a place where the guy who wants to give it to us, Feige, trusts the people that he's brought in to do it correctly.
Right,
and I think that the biggest mistake they've made since the beginning of the MCU was giving in to the idea after Endgame of, we need more. And they spent the next 10 years after Endgame, or the next build up to 10 years, just oversaturating everything. And the storytelling wasn't as good, and they fell in the same trap that everybody falls into. I think the comic book industry fell in the same trap in the mid-90s, when everything had to be foil embossed and everything had to have a card in it. Everything had to be bagged, and you had to buy 7 issues of the same comic because the artwork was slightly different on every cover. It just, at the end of the day, people realize when they're being bilked, for cash, and that's when they take off.
Yeah.
Right.
It's almost like they've become a victim of their own success.
They do. It's so easy to fall into that trap.
Oh, yeah. Look no further than the 90s Batman films, right?
My God.
Yeah, Batman Returns was really good, and then Forever, kind of just started the downward trajectory. And then
now we're going to box. Okay, you, me. Let's go. Come on.
Do you like Batman
right
Forever?
Here, right now.
I loved all those films. They were a take on the story that, it was born out of Tim Burton's vision. Mm-hmm. I know it became lighter as we got past the third and fourth film, to those two. But still, the idea of that character, and what made it similar was using people like the original Alfred for all 4 of them. And, we changed Batman twice. Michael Keaton jumped out for a while. But I just loved the story. It was just such in a way that made it fun, humorous. The lighting they used, everything about it just made me feel good about it. Now, I'm not sure if you're coming from the story standpoint or the overall, but I enjoyed every last part of that. All right, okay, I'll put my dukes down. All right.
No. Look. I am a huge Batman fan because of his rogues gallery. I think he has the best rogues gallery of any hero, like in comics.
Yeah.
Every single one of his villains, with the exception of the Joker, I believe is a character that you can absolutely understand who they are, why they're doing what they're doing, and make them somewhat sympathetic. The Joker, in my mind, is the only one that's just a complete psychopath with no redeeming quality.
No.
Exactly.
But for me, those 4 movies, the 2 Tim Burtons and then the 2 that were
Joel Schumacher,
yeah. Those 4, to me, they all had elements that I enjoyed.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, none of those movies ever truly hit what I thought Batman should have been.
Right.
Because every one of them had something about it that just wasn't what I thought it needed to be. I've always thought the most accurate, across the board presentation of the story of Batman was the animated series in the 90s.
Oh yeah.
And I don't think anything will ever touch. I think Kevin Conroy was the best Batman ever.
Yep.
And I think all the villains were presented the correct way.
Right. Yeah.
Because when you get to the Schumacher movies, I don't care about the nipples on the bat suit. I don't care about the cod pieces. He's a gay Broadway producer guy. Like, what did you think was going to happen?
Yeah.
So I mean,
nipples.
You're just gonna have to give the guy some stuff, okay? Like, just whatever. It is what it is. For me, my hottest take of the entire those 4 Batman movies, and people argue with me on it all the time, is when you go back and look at it. For me, my favorite Batman of the whole on screen, and I think still to this day, is George Clooney. And I will tell you why. Because as Bruce Wayne and as a comic book fan, George Clooney as Bruce Wayne looked more like Bruce Wayne's supposed to look than anyone who's played him on film.
Yeah.
Right.
He had that look. And I thought he did a great job with what he was given. He was just given 2 really not great scripts.
Yeah.
Right.
And he did the best he could. I love the campy presentation of Mr. Freeze. I love it so much I can't see straight. It's my favorite part of that movie. Listening to Arnold Schwarzenegger watching him force his minions to watch the I'm Mr. Heat Miser and he's Mr. Snow video, that's amazingly fun to me. Loved that spot in the movie. It was so good. He had the best one-liners. But at the same time, conversely, I hated the way they presented Two-Face.
Yeah.
I thought Two-Face was just another Joker. Mm-hmm. Like there was no different. You could have him flip a coin all day long. It's not the way that they should have bitten the bullet, and they should have let Billy D. Williams portray Two-Face.
Absolutely, because they already
would have
established
gotten
him in the
a
movies.
completely different presentation from a great actor.
Yeah.
And it wasn't my thing. And I've always enjoyed the way Batman was presented in Detective Comics, in the comic books, which was a little darker than your average Batman presentation. But I've always enjoyed him as the detective who has cool gadgets, because Batman has no superpowers. Mm-hmm. And so for me to have him hang out with Superman and the rest of the Justice League, he's the only guy there, besides maybe Green Arrow, who doesn't have powers of some kind. And so being the techie guy who's super smart and one step ahead of everybody, I really like that character. And again, that came off more in the animated series than in any of the movies they've ever done.
Right. Yeah. Like, it was like they made Batman more to a hero. Like, you know, kind of the prototypical hero, just he didn't have superpowers, versus like being the detective like the comics made him out to be, to have him, you know. That's why I think, you know, I think one of the better representations of Batman is actually the older Scooby-Doo crossover. With because they actually like
way back in the day.
Way back. I know. I used to spend my summers like watching like the Scooby-Doo Mystery Hour, and they had Batman and Robin. And I mean, the Joker and the Penguin, they were goofballs, like, because that was the frame of time where they didn't completely turn. They made Joker into more of a trickster versus an absolute psychopath who doesn't care about like killing anybody or anything. I mean, he'll shoot your dog and laugh at you at this point of the character. But back then he was more of a trickster, and he wasn't really the main villain of that crossover. He and Joker were kind of side characters, were like, they had to figure out who was like the actual, like, you know, the masked bad guy that, you know, the Mystery Inc. gang has to unmask by the end of the episode. So, but they made Batman and Robin out into like just guys that were solving cases just like Scooby and the gang. And I still think one of the best moments, other than, you know, Arnold Schwarzenegger's "Who killed the dinosaurs? The Ice Age!" You know, and he blasts the dinosaur. the best part, and it kind of spooked me. It made me jump a little bit as a kid. But they were looking around this haunted house. They were looking for clues, and this cat jumps out of nowhere and scares the shit out of Robin. And you could tell, like, Robin visibly jumped, and then he was like he was catching his breath because this fucking cat came out of nowhere and scared the shit out of him. It was so good. I was like, yeah, that was probably one of the better ones. I do know the Batman Brave, you know, the Brave and the Bold Batman that was voiced by Dietrich. I can't remember the full name, but he crossed over with Scooby and the gang to kind of emulate that. I haven't seen it, but I'm sure, because of the Brave and the Bold Batman is actually like a really nice take on Batman, and allows him to partake in more like fantastic adventures versus like the more grounded Batman, the animated series, in which evolves to you know, the new Batman adventures and eventually Justice League and Justice League Unlimited. I thought that was a pretty cool like take on Batman as well. So I mean I do agree. George Clooney is I would say he's one of the best Bruce Waynes out there. And
I just thought it's like he jumped right off a comic book page.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because because Bruce Wayne usually comes off as an older gentleman, not elderly by any means, but definitely not in his 30s. You know, he always comes off to me as mid 40s. And I feel like, you know, George Clooney looked like a mid 40s businessman.
Yeah. He was very refined,
and that's what Batman's supposed to be. And I loved that about it, you know, but I know that those two movies specifically, because of Schumacher and how colorful they got, I think, and of course the nipples and the cod pieces, I think that people got real high behind about that. But, you know, it's funny to me. I always loved this because I find it highly hypocritical that the comic book base would get so upset about nipples and a cod piece on a bat suit, but you have no problem with chicks running around in thongs and bras in the middle of sword fights and gun battles, which it makes no sense for them to be dressed that way at all.
Red Sonja.
But you're totally okay with that. But how dare Batman have hard nipples? What? Like,
Red Sonja.
I don't. Isn't the entire comic book industry about over-sexualizing humanity as it is?
Oh yeah.
In most cases, yeah.
Everything is skin tight. You can see every muscle.
Mhm.
It's all very homoerotic as it is. Why are we getting upset because this really nice, I'm sure, very pleasant gentleman who happens to have a background in Broadway theater and enjoys the occasional homosexual tryst got a hold of the Batman mythos and decided to party with the costumes? Like, what's your problem?
Yeah. Or there was one thing, like, I think the Nostalgia Critic was like really like it set him off was the Batman credit card. I thought the Batman credit card was brilliant. Never leave home without it.
That's awesome.
Then he and Robin, like Chris O'Donnell, I think is one of the most underrated Robins. You know, along with Burt Ward. You know, we love Burt Ward. But, like they were like, you know, they started you know, going back and forth for the services of Poison Ivy. And you know, they're going back on the like, you know, I'll just use your money, 1 million, you know, and then they're 2 million, and it's like then it goes up like 6 million, which I mean, in like the 90s, that was a shit ton of money, and now it's like, that's I don't know about that, but
20 years worth of retirement right there.
Yeah, no kidding. And then Batman shows off the credit card, and he's like, never leave home without it, you know. But Robin was planning to use, you know, Batman's money to pay for the services of Poison Ivy. That was just too good. If you look at it as kind of a comedy, it's really enjoyable.
And the main reason why I gravitated to Batman as a DC character was because I never could wrap my brain around Superman. I always had an issue with Superman because I need to be able to connect to these characters on some type of an intimate level. There's got to be something that I can either identify with, or there's got to be some kind of a conflict that I can feel a certain way about with them. And to me, when you have a character that can play ping pong with planets, like I don't feel too terribly bad about his girl problems.
Right.
And so it's like, for me, Superman doesn't register because this is a guy who has everything you could ever possibly wish for.
Mm-hmm.
But his main issue is, well, I don't know if I should tell her that I'm Superman. Like, could you be any more of an emo flake? Like, what is your problem? Like, I don't, like, what's your deal, dude? Like, I don't get it.
I think more from a literary standpoint, I think it's the fact that because this guy can basically do anything he wants, walk in and out of anywhere he wants to go, with the occasional villain that could hand it to him and kill him ultimately. We've seen that a couple of times. I think the fact that he struggles with the ability to connect to humans and to be able to be a part of our world in a more normal sense is the actual point of Superman, not the fact that that's just a shtick then, if he's able to beat the crap out of whoever and, like you said, play ping pong with planets. Because that's nothing impressive once you've established that the character is almost invincible. But if you look at him deeply, mindset, I think that's where all the conflict lies, is within himself.
And I get that, but to me, like, faster than a speeding bullet, you know, able to leap tall buildings in a single bound. Every one of his taglines were like, oh my God, this guy is amazing. And then if you're a villain and you realize, oh my God, if I don't have any kryptonite, I can't defeat this guy. But if you really pay attention, oh, never mind, I don't need kryptonite. I just need to go mess with the girl that he's so conflicted about.
Right.
And maybe I can get what I want. I mean, like that, I feel like part of it should have been, you know, faster than a speeding bullet, able to leap tall buildings in a single bound, but pretty conflicted about his girlfriend as well. It's a bird, it's a plane, it's Superman. You know, like, put that in the tagline so that we know right away, oh, okay, cool. He does have a conflict that I can wrap my brain around.
Right.
Because then when I find out that that's the issue, I'm like, really? That's your issue?
as well as dealing with impotency apparently at times. But that's
and then remember Superman 2 with Christopher Reeve. At the end, he just kisses her and she forgets. Like, where was that in the comic book for decades?
Yeah.
Like, where was you need to tell me all of the times that you're fretting about telling her who you are and you could have just kissed her and made her forget? Well, now you're a giant pussy. And I can't handle you at all. Like,
You're done.
So I'm going to provide a counterbalance to that. I think the Silver Age Superman kind of ruined the image of Superman for everyone, because he could play ping pong with the planets. The only thing that could stop him is a red sun and kryptonite, something they had to develop for the radio show while the Superman actor had to take a break. If they kept the Golden Age Superman, the Fleischer cartoons, where he did show vulnerabilities, he struggled to stop a locomotive, he struggled. He struggled to fight a big dinosaur, for crying out loud. That would be a Superman people would relate to, because he's a strong man, but he's not omnipotent. He's not all powerful. He's not God. I think if they returned to those roots and allowed, Clark Kent to Superman to be more of the person on the pedestal, the person he strives to be, where at the end of the day, he's still Clark Joseph Kent at the end of the day. I think people can relate to that a little more, because that's, like the old saying is, and I don't really want Superman to become like Batman, where Henry Cavill's Superman, where he was kind of like, he didn't know what to really think of himself, and then he was brooding, and then somehow, some way, Zack Snyder managed to kill off Lois Lane and then have Darkseid manipulate Superman to serve him. I mean, okay, all right, Zack Snyder. I mean, that we never will get to see how that storyline would resolve, just because fans are so polarized on the Snyder films. Although his version of the Justice League was actually it's a long film, but it was but I felt like it was good and it told a story, and that's what we're all trying to do at the end of the day, is we're all trying to tell stories, right? But I feel like keeping to the Golden Age Superman formula, and they tried doing that, I think, with Gen 13 with Jennifer Fairchild. I think that's the character's name, where she was basically 1938 Superman. And if they would have just said, okay, all right, let's return Superman to his roots, not so much the squinty-eyed, godfather of all comic book characters, but to be okay, all right, he struggles at things. He gets hit with lasers and he bounces backwards. It doesn't really stop him. He simply punches a laser and then goes to the machine and goes to the big machine operated by the mad scientist. Back in the day, he was fighting more mad scientists, and rather than somebody like Brainiac or Lex Luthor, where I would say Lex Luthor is a really good villain. Brainiac and Metallo, I would say makes sense. Brainiac would be more of the world threat, where it's not just Superman that's handling him alone. He's got Supergirl, he's got Krypto, and I feel like the James Gunn Superman can go in that direction, because James Gunn loves space operas. They could do a Brainiac and kind of keep Luthor in the picture somehow, some way, but. Yeah, I would say a great direction to take is be more project more of the old school 1938 Superman. And if DC can pull that off, like they tried to do with I think Justice League New Frontier, I think they would be onto something, and they would probably attract more people to Superman, because up until they made Superman severely overpowered and made him fret about if it wasn't a Lois Lane, it was Lana Lang, and then if it wasn't Lana Lang or Lois Lane, it was another girl that was in the picture. And then in the 90s, there was a storyline where, like, you know, Superman was trying to have a kid with Lois. The baby kicks Lois inside the womb and kills her. So he has to get with like Maxima. I am getting deep into the shit now, getting deep into the weeds. And so he has to marry Maxima so he can carry kids. And
straight up,
that is very messed up. Very messed up. But like, that's how much like lore I've really dove into, especially with Superman. But
see, that's the risk you run.
Baby.
That's the risk you run when you make somebody so powerful that then if you turn around and try to tell human stories, you have to be able to address, well, wait a second. If he's really this powerful, and if his skin is made of steel, and if all of this stuff is going on the way it's going, he cannot do the same things that a regular human will do without causing destruction around him all the time.
Oh yeah,
right.
And I've always thought, you know, it's like, look, they made a great point in the Big Bang Theory when Sheldon explains about her falling and him catching her and chopping her into 3 equal pieces. That's hilarious to me because it's not wrong.
No, it's actually incredibly true.
Funny. That is so fun. And that's why, like, then I want someone to make a movie. Like, it doesn't have to be Superman, but I want someone to make a movie where, like, they should do it on The Boys, where somebody tries to catch somebody and they chop someone into pieces because they hit their steel arms. That's hilarious.
Well, they basically become a blood puddle, and then the hero is just caked in blood.
That's what I'm saying. Is like, that's why, like, uber-powered characters, if you're going to try to tell human stories, you can't have these omnipotent, uber-powered characters because they can't do all the same things a regular human can do. So why should I be invested in their human story?
Yeah. I get where you're coming from.
That's why if you're going to tell those type of stories, you have to use grounded characters to do it.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Again, why Batman usually has better stories, because he's a grounded human character.
Right.
Mm-hmm. You know, I think about a character like I loved her in the Super Friends, Firestar. You know, I always loved her, and what really was kind of disappointing to find out as time has gone by is that she made appearances here and there. Very seldom does she show up in a comic book, but they started, or I don't know, it wasn't a one shot. They were starting a series. They printed the first issue and then they were done, and I'm going, this is something
Firestar from Spider-Man and Friends.
Yeah, Spider-Man and Friends. I'm sorry. Yeah, her. I'm jumping universe.
We're bouncing back and forth.
She was attractive. She had fiery red hair. I don't know. Maybe I'm partial to gingers, but it was just a character that I really wanted to learn and see go through her adventures. But I guess they felt that she would never stand on her own. But I'm like, well, there's enough of us little, boys that want to sit there and see that. And I'm going, why give her to us? We want her. I want her. I want
Give
more.
me the pretty women. Give me all the pretty women.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
But they've done that with so many characters. Like, I think the owner at Table's Edge, he says, every time they start to do a comic run of Gambit, for instance, his character, they always end up going 7 to 10 issues, and then they stop and reboot years later. It's like, that's kind of like what I was saying about the Fantastic Four, is that they were doing good with the guys when they made 2 movies. I forget all the actors, but it was, for me, it was getting interesting. It was getting fun. But then, let's cut it and reboot it years later. I'm going, guys, stop it. Pick something and go with it.
Yeah.
Well, and that's gonna look. That's the perfect segue for me to tell a story, if you don't mind.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm gonna tell you about what I referenced earlier, the 3 things that drove me to stop collecting comics. There were 3 events that took place where I felt like either the comic book company lost faith in the story and changed it, or at the end of the day, they were just milking us for money and they didn't tell us. So for me, and they all happened right around I want to say it was, I don't know that it was the same summer, but it seemed like it was right back to back. So you're welcome to fact check me on it with dates. But the first one I will address is the death of Superman. They made such a big deal about the death of Superman. That issue was so good. The final page where you turn the panel and he falls and dies in her arms. Such good stuff. I didn't even care. Don't care about Superman. Never. I don't care. Not one of my faves. That issue made me give a shit.
Yeah.
And it was so well written. Loved everything that came after it. Funeral for a Friend. Loved the rise of the Supermen. Thought, okay, I love where we're going. And then out of nowhere, he's back. And he's got long hair and a black suit. What the fuck? Like that, like you, so everything else meant nothing. Like, what are we doing? That pissed me off. The other one that pissed me, the next one that's really got me, if you're a Spider-Man reader, you go back to the 60s, in the very beginnings, there was a character, I believe, called the Chameleon. It was either the Chameleon or the Jackal. It was one of the two, but they created a clone. And there was a battle between Peter and the clone where there was an explosion and Peter walked out of it. And then go on through the years, Peter Parker, everything's Peter Parker. And then suddenly they introduced the character of Ben Reilly.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
And then they try to tell us that he is not the clone. Peter is the clone. And he was the original Peter all along. And you're trying to tell me that the guy I have spent 30 years reading comics and following was not Peter Parker? Fuck you, Marvel. Fuck you, you know? And so, but I get it. They kept him around, Scarlet Spider, fine, whatever. You want to create a new character, that's great. Don't sell your fan base down the river, because after they did that, Spider-Man sales fell off. And then they retconned it, because so I believe 100% they were true that they're going to do this and tell us Peter was never Peter. Because then when the sales went bananas, they flipped it.
Right.
And so that was another one. I was like, okay, man, you got me with Superman. Now you're doing Spider. And then the coup de grace, where I threw my hands up, because my favorite comic book characters, as I've already told you, of all time, are the mutants. Love the X-Men, always have. I was so invested in the Age of Apocalypse because the way it was sold to us, Legion went back in time to try and destroy Magneto, accidentally killed his father, Professor X, and thus changed everything, because Professor X was never here, was like a what if, and Apocalypse took over the world. And so everything evolved differently. And now we're in the Age of Apocalypse. People that were dead are now alive. People who were bad guys are now good guys. People who were good guys are now bad guys. We've changed everything. And the new world they created was absolutely fascinating. There were so many good things about this, and they sold it to, I used to get previews. Remember, I told you I was very sick about comics. I read the previews. I was immersed in everything. When Age of Apocalypse happened, they sold that to fans as this is the new direction. This is what is happening. The X-Men have now diverged from the 616, and this is a new timeline where this is the world, and X-Men are no longer going to be involved in any of this other stuff. This is where we are. And we got every issue changed, every title changed, every X title morphed into a new title. and we got 4 issues of all these new titles, and then these bookend events of the Age of Apocalypse, and the sales dipped a little bit, but people were super invested in this story. A lot of people were excited about it. And then bing, bang, boom, they retcon everything and rip us right back to the present day, but they take like a handful of characters and pull them into this new reality, which made no fucking sense. They pulled them into this reality, and now we're just back with all these new characters. Why couldn't you just invent these fucking characters and just put them in the regular universe? Why did you sell us this bill of goods, get everybody excited, and then change gears on us? So for me, that was the last straw. I'm done with comics. I'm tired of getting fucked in the ass. I'm done. So I'm done. And that's where I was, man. I'm through. So done. You know, I'm down for a lot, but I'm sick of not having the loop. So quit it.
Yeah.
Like it's done. So I mean, we can have a conversation, but I'm sick of spending my money, you know?
Yeah,
so I'm out of here. I'm out of here. But that was it. And so it's like, if you're gonna tell a story and you're gonna have the balls to follow through with this story.
Yeah.
You know? Have the balls to follow through with this story. And
otherwise don't start it to begin with.
Otherwise don't start it. You know, I will draw only this one allegory, and then I'll stay off of wrestling. I'll just throw this one thing out there. That because it's what I'm going through right now as a character. Right. After 17 years of promoting and writing wrestling in my territory, I am now a bad guy. But I have gone so far off the deep end as a bad guy because my idea was I have been a babyface for so long. If I don't completely commit to this and go as far off the deep end as possible, I'm not going to be able to bring the crowd with me tell the story of me being the bad guy.
Right.
So I have gone so far, and there's so much stuff that is to come. I do not feel like I will be able to walk this back in the end and become a good guy again without taking away from how good the turn has been and how well received it has been. And the last thing I want to do is do to my audience what has been done to me in the past and just retcon it and say, oh, well, it's a new day. So, once the story is over with me as a bad guy, I feel like I'm going to have to go away because to then just turn around and be good again makes no sense.
No.
Right. You need to go find yourself.
And I will not do that to my audience.
Yeah.
I get that.
I won't. And I don't like it when it's done to me. And there was that summer, that period of time where I just felt like the comic book industry was personally attacking me, and I was done.
Well, that makes sense. You and all the other readers are so invested in these characters and stories, and then they're sitting there saying, well, like you just said, here's what's gonna happen. Then, a few issues later, fuck it. You can't do that. That interrupts the story. It undoes your integrity as a writer. It just everything. It screws it up. And the sad part is that over the last 30 years, both comic book companies, the main ones, have done it over and over and over again. They don't know what it is to mean to follow through to something. It's like, we were taught this ever since we were kids. If you're going to do something, follow through. No, they're like, fuck it. Let's just change direction.
The main reason why I don't read DC Comics as a whole is because I know that whatever I get invested in about 3 or 4 years, they're going to do a crisis event, and none of it's going to mean anything.
Right.
You know, and I think that one of the things that with Marvel, we've been told flat out that we are on a trajectory now to get to Secret Wars in the MCU, and then there is going to be a crisis type event where they are going to soft reboot and put us in a new place. And I think that's fine because it's taken them 20 years to do it.
Right.
And that's okay. But it better not happen again in the next 5 to 10 years.
Right.
Or I'm going to be pissed.
Only if
you
you're
know?
Fantastic Four will it happen. I've got a real problem with that storyline. I'm sorry.
Look, I thought that the first 2 Fantastic Four movies, at the dynamic of the team, I did not have a problem with.
Right.
I did not like their portrayal of Victor Von Doom. I thought he looked stupid. I didn't like it. I thought the actor fine. The actor was fine. Didn't like the presentation. And then when Galactus was a cloud,
yeah.
No,
I think that's why they did in the trailer for this last movie, because they're like, people want to see the actual character.
No, I don't care what look, you can be an MCU hater all day long. There's a lot there to be upset about. They've really stabbed themselves in the foot quite a few times. But there's a lot of things to gripe about. But if you are a comic book fan and if you can say anything negative about how the recent Galactus was portrayed, you're just looking to be a hater, because that Galactus was perfect.
I think about the movie, the 2008 Incredible Hulk, where this all started. And what kills me is they went ahead and, got rid of that one and tried to bring in Edward Norton. And then he didn't want to do the character anymore, so we went with Ruffalo. And what kills me, though, is that they still use the original villains back from 2008. And I'm like, wait, what? Harrison Ford, okay, fine. But really, we're bringing these guys in? I was expecting to be totally different actors. No. So I'm going, okay, so we've gotten screwed over 3 different Hulks, and you're using these. To me, it was a slap in the face.
I get what you're saying, but I think that there's a larger agenda at foot, and I do think that part of it is kind of brilliant, and I'll explain that. That you have the MCU, I think, from Hulk to Endgame. If you look at that, I believe it was 22 movies. You look at that run of storytelling, I don't think there's any argument I don't think anybody can make a true argument against this statement that 22 film saga is probably the greatest comic book saga ever told on film.
Oh, absolutely.
From beginning to end. And I think it's part of the reason why everything afterwards has kind of fallen flat, because there's now an expectation level to hit. But I also think that knowing that we're now where we are in the multiverse, I think that, and having the X-Men finally at home, the Fantastic Four finally at home, essentially owning everything out there with the exception of having to share Spider-Man.
Right.
I think that bringing all of these people back from these earlier incarnation of these earlier films, I think that the main idea is, let's get anybody who might be a fan of this older stuff, bring them in for just enough time to hopefully hook them. And then when we do this soft reboot, hopefully keep everybody. And now all generations of comic book fans through the years that have watched these films will now be invested, because we did right by their original favorites. We gave them their last hurrahs, and now they're going to stick around for the new direction. Mm-hmm. I think that's probably why they did it, and I don't think it's a bad idea.
I think about, good example here is, what if we took Scarlett Johansson? She that was her character. Like you said, these characters become these actors. And with the exception of Black Panther, who died at some point, so they had to figure out how to get around that. what if we had taken Carmen Electra and all of a sudden made her, Black Widow? It's like, I get mad about that, because I'm like, you've got these actors who play these characters, it becomes personal to them, and then and this has only happened very few times with Marvel's storytelling, but yeah, again, who was that guy? Was it the guy who was shit? It was even before 2008. They started with an Incredible Hulk movie back then, and they were starting to try to do this. And
it's the Ang Lee Hulk from 2003.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's like they finally got their footing with the 2008 one, and they started going, which was great, and I'm happy about that. But again, I like my actors to stay those characters. I hate it when they switch them for absolutely no reason.
Well, if I remember correctly, the MCU really didn't become the MCU until like the Avengers became a massive hit. Like early on, and you'll notice this especially in Incredible Hulk. There was, especially what we coin on the show now is early installment weirdness, like where Hulk is not Mark Ruffalo, it's Edward Norton. You have the original Thunderbolt Ross that was around until like once we got really deep into the MCU, until the actor passed away, and that opened up the door for Harrison Ford to eventually become the Red Hulk.
Right.
At the time, if I recall correctly, the MCU was kind of like, hey, let's see what happens. Let's do an Incredible Hulk. Let's do Iron Man, and like let's try to get to Avengers as best as we can. And luckily they hit their stride once Iron Man was released, and they're like, okay, we have something to work with.
We got this.
We have something to work with, which greenlit like Thor, which greenlit Hulk, not Hulk. I'm sorry, Captain America, Captain America. And I like that they kind of set Captain America in World War II. I felt like when they did Wonder Woman, like they actually kicked out a Wonder Woman film. It was like Captain America, but they put her in World War I instead of World War II.
Right.
So I was like, okay, all right, that screams Captain America to me. But also, like by the Avengers, the MCU has hit their stride. They know what they're looking for. They know what they want to build towards. Especially with Loki, who was established in the first Thor to be kind of the big bad, but he was more of the dragon than the big bad. And then they unveiled Thanos towards the end of Avengers. And then they evolved. And then originally I was like, oh man, because like we all knew, like I think all of us knew, they were like, oh man, we're going to build up to Infinity Gauntlet. We're going to build to the Infinity War and everything like that, which I was excited about. But I was like, how are they going to bring in death? Because Thanos' character, before the MCU, he was obsessed with death. He was a simp for death.
Oh, yeah.
And early installment...
He's a very hateful little character, yeah.
Early installment Thanos is kind of a goof. He had the Thanos Captor, which made an appearance in one of the Loki series. The first season of Loki, when Loki drops into that really weird, like the TVA world where they drop all the the stuff they wanted to get away with. They wanted to
the void.
They wanted to get away from it. Stuff they were like, okay, this is not part of the proper timeline. We need we need to find a place to dump it. And then you had the Thanos Copter, but like Thanos lost when he tripped over his own feet in a comic book issue. It wasn't until like the Infinity Gauntlet where Thanos really became. It was the makings of the Thanos we all know and love, and then now because of the MCU and he even made an appearance in the first Guardians of the Galaxy. Like they really started to bring him in. And they really built him up, and now Thanos is the guy that is the villain that we either all love or hate today, or we love to hate. And that is kind of where the MCU does things right, is kind of give it a more grounded approach, even though Thanos is this purple monster man from the planet Titan, which is not related to the Titan. That's a moon on Saturn. But yeah, but like the purple monster man that wants to snap things and bring balance to the universe. Like, I thought that was a great direction, rather than just making him like try to appease death, and not bringing her in. I thought that was the right approach. And
did you ever read the 4 comic series that they did about younger Thanos? It's like he was a sweetheart, and he was he was in love with a girl or something like that. And I guess, did she get taken away or killed? I can't remember. Rick, do you remember that one?
She gets killed.
She gets killed. So that right there was his defining moment, where he becomes this guy that just wants to go and take over all these planets in the universe. It was all based off of a lost love. And it was like, holy crap. I really appreciate having that context to put with Thanos.
Well, his character has been trying to find love his whole life. He was shunned as a child for his looks. He was shunned by his family. He lost the love of his life. Everything about Thanos' character in all the retcons has been that he is just a character that's seemingly always looking for his place in the world, or his place in the universe. And because nothing ever has gone his way, he just feels like, since all I'm surrounded by is death, destruction, evil, and disappointment, the only thing that will make me lovable is to, be this evil monster.
Yeah.
And it's a real interesting dichotomy for Thanos as a character. I was amazed when I went to see the Avengers, and then they did the Thanos reveal at the end of the show, because I thought to myself, okay, when he turned to look at the camera, I thought, oh my God, okay, are we headed towards the Infinity Gauntlet? Is that where we're going? Because as a comic book fan, and as the Gauntlet, I told you, was what really got me into serious collecting, I knew in that moment, okay, I just saw Thanos. The most famous thing Thanos is connected to is the Infinity Gauntlet, but we don't own 3/4 of the characters that are going to be involved in the Infinity Gauntlet. We have no mutants. We don't have the Fantastic Four. We don't have Adam Warlock. None of these people are established. Like, it's not just an Avengers story. It's a Marvel crossover.
Yeah.
Okay?
Right.
And there's key things about this story that we don't have. So I knew immediately, if we're going to do the Gauntlet, it is going to look nothing like the comic book, The Infinity Gauntlet, because we don't have anything. And when you go back to, you were talking about the build to the Avengers, I think that they knew early on, like at least by the end of the first Iron Man, because he said Avengers Initiative, Fury said it.
Where they were headed.
They knew they were going to get to Avengers, because at the same time, that's all they owned. They sold off Spider-Man. They sold off Fantastic Four. They sold off Daredevil. They sold off the X-Men. They sold, Hulk's distribution rights are still to this day owned by Universal.
Yep.
That's why we haven't had another Hulk movie. We can use Hulk as a character, but we can't have another Hulk movie unless Universal distributes it. But we've got, all they had was the Avengers. They had Guardians, which I believe is connected to the Avengers license. And then they had Doctor Strange. They had Black Panther, but they're all connected to the Avengers because they're all Avengers.
Yep.
That's the main reason why I believe they were allowed to use Wanda, was because she's connected to the Avengers.
She's more so an Avenger
and then
than
they came
like
to they sold everything. So all we had to build to was Avengers type storylines. But I think that Thanos is a great villain, and I love what they did with him. I just don't want him to come back. I don't want.
Yeah, he's dead.
His piece of the story. I mean, his story is over.
Yeah. Should be. Yeah.
Unless they bring in I remember there was like a teaser that was out on the internet where like they had Thanos run across Doctor Doom. Now, granted, this was probably in a different universe, or they set it in a different universe, but right. Doctor Doom turns Thanos into a skeleton and does a Mortal Kombat fatality.
That's it. Well, that's first off, that's an AI video that was created by a fan.
Right.
But that is directly from the Hickman run of Doctor Doom that led to the 2015 Secret Wars and which is a lot of what they're going to be pulling from for Doomsday and Secret Wars is the Hickman run. There is a whole scene where he literally reaches into Thanos' body and rips out his entire skeleton. That happens in the comics.
Get over here.
And it's interesting because you made a great point about early Thanos. The most awesome that Thanos has ever been presented was during the Infinity sagas.
Oh yeah.
Infinity Gauntlet, Infinity War, Infinity Crusade. That's the best presentation, because outside of that, Thanos was generally a bumbling character that didn't do a lot of cool stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Got a quick joke here. I'll throw this in right now. So everybody's aware that Fox owns the Alien franchise, right?
Yes.
And now we know that Disney owns Fox, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So wouldn't that make the Alien Queen the new princess?
It would be. Yeah.
Now we're
is officially a Disney princess. Absolutely.
Yeah. Now we're gonna have the Xenomorph Queen start dancing and singing his songs before she kills the other Disney princesses.
Before she spits acid.
Look, I'm still I'm holding out a little bit of hope, because I don't believe that it's technical. I mean, I could be wrong. Someone can research it for me. I don't know where the license truly stands, but I am dying for Disney to get their hands on the Rocky Horror Picture Show, because I need Frankenfurter to be the first transgender Disney princess.
Ted Curry would be like, what? That's great. I love it. I
do want to throw something in real quick before. Okay, I got to do not so much a little retconning, but I got to add a little clarification. I got into comic books before the Electric Superman. It was Aliens versus Predator, the original run. I remember picking up an issue of Aliens versus Predator War, which is a continuation of the original series. And that got me hooked. I remember reading that comic at least 3 times a day. And then when they came out with the movies, I was a little disappointed, because they took place they weren't far in the future, how Ripley Scott would have intended, or Ridley Scott would have intended.
Ridley Scott.
I mean, they did a card series back in the 90s because they were teasing a movie. They wanted to do a movie of Aliens versus Predator. And they were going to have Ripley in it. And they were going to have, all these, the more elements from the Alien franchise compared to the Predators. But now, Predator is so muddled. It's so muddied. Although Prey kind of turned things around. And I'll be interested to see how the new Predator comes out, because it's supposed to be a story without humans. It's supposed to be all about the Yautja. More than anything, and how this young blood is going to become full-blooded and build, and then maybe that might be a character for the future for them to build upon. But I would kill to see a proper Aliens versus Predator based off those comics back in those early 90s, because gosh dang, they were so good. They told a great story.
Speaking of aliens, Sigourney Weaver said she would absolutely play Ripley if they give her the role.
But they tried killing off Ripley so many times by now.
Well, that's the whole point. She was food. Well, actually, you know what? After Salvation, when she was a lab-grown alien human. I don't know now.
Oh, in Resurrection, where they try to finagle a way to bring her back.
Was it Resurrection?
I think it was Resurrection. Because I think Salvation. That's more of a That's a Terminator. That's a Terminator film, and I thought that was kind of underrated, even though they had Christian Bale's like crash out on set and they recorded it.
But no, you're right. It's Resurrection, and I absolutely loved her doing that. You know, there she is playing basketball, and when she get a bloody nose or something, and it goes right through the hole, and you're like, oh shit. And then my favorite scene from that movie is when she finds all the other failed attempts at combining the DNA, and she goes and she kills everything, flames it, gets rid of it, puts it out of its misery. And who was that one mercenary? He said, it must be a woman thing or something. I'm like, oh, shit. You're lucky she didn't hear that.
Otherwise, he would have ate the flamethrower too, right? Either that or get the loader on him.
She would have eaten him.
Yeah, no kidding. That made me think, okay, since we're moving on past like Marvel and DC, Rick has a really good tangent on He-Man. And we should hear this on stream. It is too good.
Ta-da.
And how would you like for me to approach this?
Any which way you like. Any which way. It could be full of vitriol. It could be worry. It could be optimism. Whichever way you want to approach it.
I love the Masters of the Universe mythos. I loved the toys as a child. I have a fairly decent collection of the early 2000 cartoon toy reboot. And I was very excited as a younger person to watch the 1987 movie with Lundgren, and absolutely hated it, with the exception of Frank Langella's Skeletor, who every scene he had stole the entire movie.
Oh, absolutely. He was great.
But I have never been a fan of the storyline of Prince Adam versus He-Man. I enjoyed because the early mini books, when the Masters of the Universe toys came out, He-Man was far closer to Conan the Barbarian than he was Superman. Mm-hmm. And to me, the Prince Adam, He-Man, that's Clark Kent Superman. But they didn't even think to give Adam glasses. They just put him in a stupid pink shirt with the same body build and the same face and the same haircut, but hand him a sword and we don't know that it's Adam. Fuck off. So like, it was so stupid. So I hate it. I hate that so much. So much to the fact that the collection that I do have of those figures from the early 2000s, I think it's actually referred to as the 200X series. I don't have the Prince Adam figure and I don't have the Orko figure because I will not participate in that ridiculous crap. I won't do it. I hate Orko and I hate Adam. So I have to say, though, I loved that early 2000s reboot of the cartoon because it way less cheese and far more delving into the mythos of the characters. Mm-hmm. And I appreciate Kevin Smith's attempt on Netflix to continue the story from the original cartoon and give us revelations. I thought that was great. But I am so scared for next year's Masters of the Universe release with Jared Leto as Skeletor, because I just feel like Jared Leto is the actor you call when you want to destroy a franchise.
Yeah.
And
It's Morbin time.
I'm very worried about it because I think they're making the same mistake again. They're taking He-Man to Earth. He-Man doesn't belong on Earth.
No.
It's an Eternia.
Keep the story on Eternia. I don't care if the mother was a Earth astronaut that crash landed on Eternia and gave birth to He-Man. Fine, whatever. I don't care. Don't take the character of He-Man to planet Earth. I don't like it. I'm so worried about it. Like, why can't we just be happy with the science meets magic on a planet and the battle between good and evil? Why do we consistently have to take the formula that works and keep trying to cram it into these other franchises like Superman? And it just, stop it. Just stop. Like, just tell the damn story, you know? And I'm very worried because I love it and I want it to be great. I'll tell you right now, and I'll throw this out here because when I get done with it, I'll probably want one of you or both of you to read it. I am currently working on a He-Man story that I would eventually like to bring all the way to a screenplay and see if I can't get someone to look at it. And it has nothing to do with Earth. It has nothing to do with the stupid secret identity bullshit. Orko isn't in it. So if you're an Orko fan, you're not going to like it. It's very grounded in the mythos of the stories and the world. And if I could get it sold, my overall view is a 3-picture story, because there's always got to be 3s. You got to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. But the first movie would be telling the story of King Grayskull versus Hordak. And we would, by the end of that first movie, we're not even at Skeletor versus He-Man yet.
Right.
Because I feel like that has to be the second part, and then we'll resolve it in the third film.
Yeah.
I would end movie number 1. The last scene would be He-Man being handed or have whoever He-Man is, and we can call him Adam all day long, but we're not doing the pink shirt, and we're not doing that.
No,
I would have him he would be handed the power sword by the sorceress. He would raise the sword up, lightning, thunder, clouds. He would open his mouth to say the line, and we cut the film. That's in. You got to come back for the second one to see it happen.
There you go.
Nice.
Like, that would be the end. We wouldn't even hear the line because it would just, you'd know what's coming as a fan, but I would need to get to that. That would be the moment that would end the first film. But I just don't, I want the story to be told in a way that's true to the franchise, true to the characters, true to the mythos of Eternia. And these film companies keep wanting to sell me this fucking He-Man meets Saved by the Bell, and I'm done with it. I'm done with it. Stop it.
Yeah, it doesn't make very much sense for, a swords and sorcery based franchise. I mean, I think this was the biggest flaw with the original.
He's
He-Man.
on Earth. In this new one, he's on Earth and he's in high school.
Oh my god.
Stop it. Stop it.
Oh no. Okay. All right. Maybe that will be like kind of a, like what, in wrestling lingo would be a swerve, and we could have a story on Eternia. But like the first film, because I've seen the first film, and I thought Skeletor, yeah, he stole the show. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
However, I don't understand why swords and sorcery, like based characters, this would be like sending Conan the Barbarian to Earth. When honestly, it's really Conan the Barbarian should be either far in the future after civilization is long since fallen, or way back, during the primordial, like prehistory, where you can explain that, hey, like civilization ebbs and flows. Before the Egyptians, there was this ancient civilization, and you had Conan to live there. Because humans have been technically around for 1 million years. And this is one of my really crazy conspiracy theories. There are more ages of mankind than mainstream historians have you be led to believe.
Have found out so far. Yeah.
Right, have found out so far. Because like the oldest cities are only calculated to 12,000 years, before the Common Era, before Christ. And I brought this up on not on our stream or our podcast, but in somebody else's podcast. They were doing a live stream, and I was like, look, humanity had different ages of civilization. The Hindu texts describe those ages. Like there was like an age of fire, there was an age of water. It sounds like a really bad take on the Avatar cartoon series on Nickelodeon, but I think it has some merit. And otherwise we wouldn't know like about the myths of Atlantis and Lemuria and all these places. I think there's a morsel of truth, but there's so much that you can put misinformation on or blow out of proportion from that morsel of truth. I mean, that's a thing. But yeah, to have He-Man like be transported to Earth was a little hokey. They could have set it all in Eternia because they did, they had Conan, they had the swords and sorcery films of the 70s and 80s, which were pretty popular at the time, and do the same thing with He-Man. And do the same thing. They could have kept Dolph Lundgren. They could have had all the supporting characters and just keep it on Eternia.
The fact that we had to mention Kentucky Fried Chicken in the He-Man film, I'm like, really?
Probably because of a sponsorship. But like, I think of it like Planet of the Apes. Like Planet of the Apes, like I think until the MCU came around, Planet of the Apes was kind of like a franchise that kind of flew by the seat of its pants because of the success of the original film with Charlton Heston. And what's kind of weird is I'm kind of a subtle Planet of the Apes fan. I'm not a fan of the Tim Burton movie, but I do like the recent films, which have a really excellent storyline to them. But I love the original Planet of the Apes series of films as well, because that world in itself and the mythos around Planet of the Apes. Again, fly by the seat of your own pants. I mean, that's something that Fox was like, we made a lot of money off this. Let's see if we can run it to the ground. And in retrospect, I actually look back at it and I'm like, the original Planet of the Apes films were not that bad. They were telling a message in a very kind of a chaotic time in our country's history. It's pretty much a reflection. And
if you didn't know anything else about those films, you were able to sit there and start watching the very first one. And that's what the standpoint I took on it was that, okay, knowing that, Planet of the Apes came after humanity. But when you're sitting there watching those older films with your mind clear and wide open, and you sit there and go, okay, so they're running around the fields, they're doing this, they're doing that. No evidence of, civilization whatsoever. You just think you did a time jump. Well, no, you did, but you went, ahead in time, I guess?
They went ahead in time. So, like,
And then they're seeing all the things that showed that man used to be there.
Right. Which is very interesting because they were going into space on a mission, and they hit some sort of wormhole or another space anomaly, and And the really cool thing is they originally thought we're on an alien planet. And then I love the big, I mean, it's so popular by now because it's how so many times it's been parodied. When Charlton Heston finds out that it is indeed planet Earth in the far future, it hits you hard. That's why I tell people go into the original Planet of the Apes with a really clear mind, and you'll be surprised on how good the original film is and how they built up to that world by essentially jumping backwards with Escape from the Planet of the Apes and then working their way to battle for the Planet of the Apes. So just my little tangent.
And then here's Rick. I'm sure you'll have a comment on this. And then they take two of them back to Earth.
Yeah.
There it is.
Because they were supposed to end it with Beneath the Planet of the Apes.
Right.
But here's what I will say. Look, I love the original Planet of the Apes movies. I like the whole original franchise is good. And I did not like when they brought Roddy McDowall and the female character. I didn't like it when they brought them to Earth.
Yeah.
Until I realized, again, because one of the things about the ape movies, the original ape movies, they had great twist endings.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the twist ending when they brought them to Earth was that they had the baby that would then be raised by Ricardo Montalban's character, which would start the uprising, which would lead to the nightmare future.
Yeah.
And then you realize that the future that Charlton Heston ended up in could not take place without them coming to Earth.
Exactly.
Because it's a loop, it's a cycle.
It's a stable time loop.
And at that point, once I realized that, I was like, okay, I'll back off on hating that they brought them to Earth.
You get because at least one.
But see, that's the thing is like, if you can turn it, if you can make the narrative make sense, then that's great. But otherwise, if you don't have that tells me there was forethought, there was planning.
Right.
There, we knew we were going here, so this is a necessary step.
Exactly.
But otherwise, if you're just doing it to do it, again, that's. I swear to God, this is the last time I bring up wrestling on the podcast. but it's in my brain, and Tyler will understand. When guys come to me and say, "I've got an idea for this match," I always say, "Okay, but then what?"
Mm-hmm. If they can't
or what's your plan for 6 months down the line? Because if we're going to do something here that's going to be a departure of any sort or seem like a departure, it has to have a payoff down the line or we're not going to do it. Because I'm not hot-shotting something one time that I can't turn into something else.
Right.
So that's why I tell them, if you have an idea, I need you to come at me with a fully realized plan. Don't tell me, well, we have concepts of a plan. That's not...
Because concepts are very dangerous. You got to have like any other story, you got to have a beginning, a middle, and an end.
We're going to sidestep now and go back to...
We'll go back to Planet of the Apes.
Yeah, go back to Guardians. I have 12% of a plan. I have 12% of a plan.
12% of a plan.
Oh my gosh.
I love it. Rick.
Yeah, 12% of a plan, but not the other 88%.
I have concepts of a plan.
That's 12% of my plan.
I went there. Damn.
Love it.
Anyway. So, what's the next thing?
Should you guys talk about toys?
Tyler, hold on.
Okay.
Before we do that, because Tyler was bringing up the previous civilizations.
Yeah.
Right.
We can do that.
And sticking kind of with the 80s nostalgia, I wanted to briefly say, and this is another hot take. So if I've got anybody listening that is a G.I. Joe fan, it's probably going to get real upset with me when I say this.
Oh, here we go.
I loved the Cobra Log story. I loved it. If you don't know what I'm talking about, in the G.I. Joe movie, after a few years of the TV show with the weekly episodes,
Yeah.
when they did the movie, they introduced the Cobra Law civilization.
Oh.
Which was a hidden civilization under an ice dome in the Himalayas that used to control the planet until humans evolved and embraced technology, which forced them to go under this ice dome to have their civilization and plot their return. So they retconned Cobra Commander to say that he was sent out into the world as the emissary of Cobra Law to build an army of tech to take over the planet to the point that Cobra Law could then come back and rule the planet.
Mm-hmm.
G.I. Joe fans, hardcore fans, hate that movie because of that storyline.
Oh.
Hate it. I loved it.
Yeah.
Because it finally made the Cobra Commander character make sense.
Yeah.
Just based on one line in the second G.I. Joe miniseries where they did the Weather Dominator gimmick, where Destro sees Cobra Commander eating without his mask, and he kind of gives a look, and Cobra Commander says this one throwaway line, "It takes a strong stomach to watch me eat, doesn't it, Destro?"
Oh.
And we've never seen his face. And so then to find out that he was scarred by a biological weapon that gave him multiple eyes and blue skin in this Cobra Law thing and then sent out into the world, it suddenly made that one line make sense. And I was like, now that's long-term storytelling,
Yeah.
ladies and
Oh, yeah.
gentlemen. That's long-term storytelling.
Well, in the bounce off of that, I mean, we'll keep going down this rabbit hole. I like this.
Yeah.
The ancient Sumerians, Babylonians, basically the Fertile Crescent, they talked about the Anunnaki, and the Anunnaki were basically gods. And if you read anything crazy, like you read the books by Zechariah Sitchin, which are very interesting books, they might be a little off the wall. They might be batshit insane to some people, but he was reading into all the mythos of the ancient Sumerians. And the Anunnaki created humans as a slave race based off of their own understanding of genetics. They basically created us, is what these texts reveal. And then humans, because we don't like to be controlled, we don't like to be told what to do, we were originally created to go mine gold and other precious materials for the Anunnaki. And what's interesting is, of course, humans love to rebel. They don't, like I said, they don't like to be told. We usually don't like to be told what to do and how to do it or whatever, even if it's for better or for the worse. But we had an uprising and we kicked the Anunnaki off the planet. Now they do prophesize that the Anunnaki will come back, but that's kind of the story. And that the Cobra Law is also kind of a take on Shangri-La, which is a take on Shambhala, which is considered a holy site within the Himalayas, like hidden within the mountains. That is actually kind of a really cool concept. Like, I think that would be, you could really run with that story, because then you can say, well, originally the Cobra Law, like, created humanity to created humanity as like a slave race, a race of servitude to extract minerals and precious metals and resources for the Cobra Law. And then, of course, humans, being the rebellious creatures that we are, we basically we won the ancient war, we won the uprising, but at the cost of like the knowledge from Cobra Law, to where like the first Egyptians or the first Chinese or whatever you want to, or whatever you want to say, the first civilizations on the first recorded civilizations on Earth could, that's where they got their starts, is from those exiles or those former rebels against Cobra Law. And then you could be like, that's how those civilizations formed. And then, I mean, given it's a fictional universe, it doesn't have to be grounded too much in reality, because then people will start poking holes in it or whatever, in the logic. But then you could say, okay, all right, and then after a few generations, that knowledge deteriorated to where it became myths and legends. And then, but here's the catch. Cobra has been around the entire time. They've been in hiding, and then, they send out Cobra Commander, like, kind of like an Antichrist figure to bring people back in. And then it's the G.I. Joes that uncover this massive conspiracy of Cobra trying to take over the world so they can usher in a new age of Cobra Law.
And it could have been so much more. It could have gone into a lot of what you just talked about. It could have been more than that. But the problem is that the company that was distributing the G.I. Joe cartoon lost the license, and it was picked up by another company that came in after the movie and completely changed the entire story.
Oh, sure.
They started a brand new season where they lost characters. They added new characters. They ended up bringing people back that had been killed in the movie, and they changed everything.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was kind of the death of the franchise, really.
Sure.
Right.
After the film.
Yeah.
Was it Hasbro?
But I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I thought the G.I. Joe movie was one of the best animated cartoon movies that I've ever seen. I love that show so much.
Mm-hmm.
And it has the best opening 2 minutes of any animated film I've ever seen in my life.
Sure.
What they did with the G.I. Joe Real American Hero song and the 2-minute opening it's on YouTube. I highly recommend that you go watch it. It's amazing.
Sure. Yeah.
Was it Hasbro that picked up the license after the film, or when did Hasbro get hold of it?
Hasbro had the toy license the whole time. Marvel had the comic license, but the TV show was DIC.
Oh,
and then DIC lost it, and Sunbow had it, and then Sunbow lost it to DIC.
Oh, to Deke.
And DIC took it, and they're the ones who changed everything.
Got it. I was going to make a joke about, you were sitting there saying that characters came alive, others were dead. I'm like, that sounds like a Hasbro scam just to sell more toys.
Sounds about right.
Oh, my poor Transformers in 1984. Let me tell you, that broke my heart. Optimus dying, several others. I'm like, yeah, I like the new characters, but I loved Ironhide. I loved Ratchet. I loved all these guys. Oh, they're all dead now. Well, shit.
Well, the G.I. Joe movie was actually written and completed, like the animation even. Everything, the movie was ready to go, but they released Transformers first. And with the death of Optimus Prime, which did a great job of sinking the franchise because people were so upset about it, that the following television seasons didn't do the same as the previous seasons.
No.
G.I. Joe went back because they were going to kill Duke. And in the movie, they killed Duke in the movie. Serpentor threw a cobra at him, a cobra spear, and stabbed him right in the heart. Blood, whole 9 yards, right there on film, and he dies on the battlefield. Right. And then they retconned it because of the negative publicity that Optimus's death got.
Yeah.
They retconned it by having Scarlet, the character, off camera say he slipped into a coma. And then at the end of they inserted a reel at the end of the film where they say that Duke is going to be okay and recover, because they didn't want the G.I. Joe fan base to rebel like the Transformers fan base did.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And it makes sense. I remember when I bought the box set of the Transformers. I've got all 4 seasons on DVD, and it's the box that looks like the Leadership of Matrix. Really cool.
Yeah.
And I remember I flew through the first 2 seasons leading up to the film because I loved those characters. Everything about them. Stories may have been just very episodic and periodic, but I loved it. And then I watched the movie, and now it's taken me years to slowly get through the other episodes.
Because the movie,
interested to see it all the time.
Yeah, the movie was solely designed to sell the new series of figures.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
you know, it was designed to sell Rodimus Prime and to sell Ultra Magnus and sell Cup and RC. You know, those were the characters. That's why almost every major character from the cartoon died in the opening battle. And I remember going to the theater to seeing it and being like, Jesus Christ, they're killing the whole cast.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was bad.
Sucks. That sucked.
But I will tell you this. And here's another one for people to be mad at me about if they want to get mad. I tell you, I have very strong opinions about a lot of things, and
that's okay.
That's never a bad thing.
I tell you, look, if I was in charge of the Marvel X-Men, like what's coming, like after Secret Wars, I can tell you very honestly, in the very first 5 minutes of the first X-Men film, I would kill the entire original team. Cyclops, Jean Grey, both of them, dead in a doornail, don't ever want to see again.
Sure.
So done. Professor X, gone. Bye. See ya. Gone. I might retain Beast. Iceman, whatever. Don't really care about him. Angel, don't really care. He's not cool unless he's Archangel anyway. So for me, like I would retain Beast, but I think I'd murder everybody else just so that way for two things can't happen. If you don't have Jean Grey, you can't subject me to another Dark Phoenix storyline.
Oh God, yeah.
Right.
And if you don't have Scott Summers, I don't have to hear him bitch about everything every fucking film.
Or even okay, all right. He even bitches in the '92 cartoon too.
Yes.
Holy shit, dude! Have you seen the little meme that goes around about the top 10 things about the X-Men, and every other one is somebody is showing up to ruin Scott Summers' day? Have you ever seen that lineup?
No.
It's like a 10. I would look it up on my phone, but then I'd lose you guys.
Yeah.
But it's out there. It's a list of a top 10 list. You can look it up, Ed. It's a top 10 list about the X-Men. But one of the key things about it is every other one talks about something ruining Scott Summers' day.
Yeah.
But it is absolutely accurate. It is absolutely accurate. It's so fun. If you found it, read it because it's amazing.
Well, I was
my favorite
Tyler
part.
post it up.
While you're looking that up,
Yeah.
Ed, I'm gonna
send it to you now through the share with the video ninja.
Sure, you bet.
It's coming.
One of my favorite parts of the '92 X-Men series, I think it's like when Wolverine comes out of the X-Jet and Cyclops is bitching, and the first thing Wolverine does is punch him in the gut. just like shut up, you know.
Tyler's up there. At least it says it is. I don't know how you're going to get it. And maybe actually, you know, let's just pull it off the Reddit page. That'll be more easy.
Yeah. Oh, actually, you know what? Here it is. Here's this.
And there. Now you got the Reddit post and the meme.
Okay. All right. Let's look it up. Unless Reddit asks me to prove my humanity, but okay. All right. Ultimately, and I'm going to actually what we'll do. Hold on. I think we can do a shared screen. Oh wait. That kicked Rick off. Let's bring Rick back. Okay. Okay. All right. I'll just read it for everybody else while Rick kind of pops back in the view. Okay. Ultimately, there are 10 basic X-Men plots. The first one, aliens ruin Scott Summers' day. Okay. The teenage female audience surrogate, Kitty, Jubilee, Armor, does something cool. Okay. All right. And I accidentally booted Rick. We'll bring Rick back in. There we go. Okay. It isn't unfiltered without at least a little bit of scuff. There we go. Okay. How true is this? Okay. Bigots ruin Scott Summers' day. Storm wrestles with her leadership position. Time travelers ruin Scott Summers' day. Everything connects back to Wolverine. Literal demons rise up from hell to ruin Scott Summers' day. Professor Xavier turns out to have done a bad thing. That one makes me laugh. The other X-Men ruin Scott Summers' day. Probably most likely Wolverine. And then the Phoenix shows up. Most likely to ruin Scott Summers' day. That's so good. That's so good. Oh, hold on.
Absolutely accurate.
Yeah,
all
it is. It is. It is.
So I say, let's just get rid of Scott Summers.
Let's just kill him off.
Just get rid of him. There are so many good X-Men characters. The Pantheon is so deep with good characters. Why can't I have a film where the focal points are Gambit, Rogue, Psylocke, Colossus, Magic, Cannonball, Husk, Chamber, Nightcrawler. There are so many good characters. I don't need the original cast. And you can always have Beast just hanging out in the X-Mansion doing Beast things. But
most likely trying to find a cure for cancer.
Because he's super intelligent and he's a fun character. But
and he's blue.
I'm just so tired of the original team.
Yeah.
Like, you've got so many other characters. And don't get me wrong, I love Magneto. Please don't make him the villain. Please. Who do I have to sleep with to get Mr. Sinister?
Mr. Sinister is so underrated. But you're right. Like I'm so burnt out on the dynamic between Professor Xavier and Magneto. You got to close that book. You should have closed that book a long time ago. And if you wanted to make Magneto like the leader of the X-Men, like X-Men 97 tried to do, have him basically pull, I think how they handled it was interesting. But of course, as soon as they turned him babyface, I know, wrestling lingo. I mean, that's why I was like, it's not going to be the first time. It's not going to be the last time we use wrestling lingo on this podcast. Just as fast, he turns back into a heel. But he's a self-righteous heel. That's what separates Magneto. He does have a point. The jackass has a point, but he goes about it in a different way, and it's an allegory to Martin Luther King Jr. versus Malcolm X. That's the real life equivalent.
So, well, that's exactly the whole dynamic of the X-Men is the civil rights movement of the 60s.
Yep. That's
the whole point. That's why I find it hilarious when people get upset about the idea of there being gender swapping or race swapping, or God forbid we have LGBTQ characters or things like that. Don't you understand that the entire point of the mutant story is an allegory for civil rights
and diversity? Yeah.
So what are you how can you watch or read anything to do with the X-Men or the X characters and think for 5 seconds that this is all white people and mostly males?
Yeah.
That's not how it works.
No.
Like, I almost want the entire new cast. I almost want every single person to be a black female just to watch the world burn.
A beautiful black woman. Is that the term?
A big, beautiful
whatever,
black woman.
Man.
Independent black woman.
I'm referring to a thing he did in multiple different interviews where he thought it was important to tell the public that we saw many beautiful black women wearing a red hat. You know, he does over and over and over again. There's several clips of this in different meetings. Blood. So that's where I was going with it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, okay. Well, we're that's a great way to close it, because we're about on the 2-hour mark. And I know it doesn't feel like 2 hours when Rick joins us. It flies so fast because we go down so many deep rabbit holes, and Rick's always got a fun story. And while Ed and I just sat back and laugh, and then every now and then I talk about like ancient civilizations and like, oh my gosh, it's stuff that would like make you think of ancient aliens, like, you know, the alien, like the one guy with his hands like this. Aliens. Everything is aliens. Aliens.
Word.
Yeah. Word up.
Word.
But cool deal, Rick. Thanks so much again for joining us. You know the door is always open, and I know it's the other way around.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much for letting me come on. I love doing stuff like this, and I love the discussion we had today. Do you mind if just before we go, if I plug something real quick?
Absolutely.
I swear it's not
plug away.
So I believe I mentioned this the last time I was on, that my brother-in-law is actually a part of a writing team that has put out 2 fantasy novels so far, and they're working on the 3rd one.
Oh, cool.
And I wanted to show you, if you don't mind. This was the first one that he and his writing partner wrote. I know it shows backwards. The author is listed as Dennis Riley, but my brother-in-law is Eric Dennis.
Okay.
And then his partner is Riley.
Oh, it's a pseudonym.
Yeah. And so the series, it's Fortune, Shadow, Mercy's Might.
Ooh. And
this was the first book. This is the second book. It's Fortune's Cloak and Mercy's Blade. Oh. But it's a series, and the 3rd one is in process right now.
Very cool.
But if you're a fantasy reader, these 2 books, this series is really good.
Awesome.
Okay. Nice. Very nice.
Awesome. We might have to ask Derek if you want, or not, Eric, to put up a booth at YC3 or Amicon and be like, hey, here's.
They're usually there. He and his daughter Lauren, who is very immersed in the local art scene. They usually have booths at the cons.
Oh, that's cool. That's awesome.
And he's also my brother-in-law is also a 6th grade teacher at Travis.
Okay.
Matter of fact, he won the area teacher of the year last year.
Oh yeah. So he's legit. Like legit. Like he can write, he can teach, and he's molding young minds into being creative minds. So
exactly.
That's awesome.
Right.
Anyway, I just wanted to plug his books real quick.
Oh, absolutely. That's awesome. That's awesome.
We've enjoyed having you, and we're glad. And I had a good time here. It was fun.
Yeah, it's always fun to talk comic books, and we haven't even dipped into my rabbit holes, which is okay. Ed, you're gonna think it's the Cyrax rabbit hole. It's not.
Here we go.
It's not. I promise. It's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It is Godzilla, and then Gargoyles.
Gargoyles
is another one. I always like to dip my toes into. Godzilla has like lore that stretches back 70 years, and then Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That was something I grew up on. I know plenty of people that are big, like they've turned into really huge Power Rangers fans. Maybe the next time all three of us to get together, we go down those rabbit holes.
Don't forget Mask.
Mask. Oh.
Mask.
Yeah, Mask. And then there's like the Mask, who had its own animated series, and you had this one really creepy character. And I'll share this before I go. Like his head would detach, and it would become like out of his head would be like spider legs that would come around. I think it was like Dr. Prometheus or something. I'll have to look that up, but that always stuck in my mind. I was like, the Mask in the comics was like a psychopath. Like he would kill people willy-nilly and run rampant. While in the comic, while in the animated series, they made him more into a hero that fought these really wacky villains. But I mean, it was taken seriously. It really was. Like, it was interesting. So.
And yeah. I was talking about Mask the toys with the mobile armor strike command.
Right. Yeah. And then not to mention the Robotech Macross rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Yeah. The one I love talking about. It's like the jets that turn into robots and they fight 50-foot giant men and women, that are, and then they bring in like the Robotech Masters and the Invid, especially in the Robotech universe. I mean, in Macross, like the giant 50-foot men and women are the Zentradi. And there's still the Zentradi in the Robotech universe, but I'll go down that rabbit hole another day.
Right on.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, Rick, we will look forward to having you on again soon. It'll be more so sooner than later.
I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much.
You betcha.
Thank you.
Okay.
Take care.
All right. We will see all of y'all very soon. All right. Take care.